Thanks, everyone. I'll kick it off. Welcome to our digital marketing masterclass for sports. And look, in today's webinar, we'll keep it very general and top line, but we'll cover some of the following topics. So the state of sports advertising today. We'll address some of the common digital marketing challenges and then go over some of the key learnings and hear from our amazing panelists on their experience in the industry and some of the successes as well. Without further ado, I'll introduce the panelists. So up the top there, we've got Karina Whiteford from Collingwood Football Club here in Australia, so part of the Australian Football League. Welcome, Karina. Thank you very much for being here. We have Raquel Payne from True North Sports and Entertainment. So thank you very much, Raquel. Sorry, part of the Manitoba Moose there, and also involved with the Winnipeg Jets. Last but not least, Colton, thank you very much for joining us, one of our digital ad specialists here at TB and looks after the sports side of things. I might start with you, Karina. Just how long you've been working in the sports industry and kind of what your day-to-day role is.
Gee, that's a question that's going to make me feel old because I think it's just under 10 years that I've been working in sport now. Excuse me. So yeah, just under 10 years, and my current scope at Collingwood covers quite a lot of the fan journey, which is amazing. So we do marketing comms or go-to-market strategy, brand strategy, and our game days as well. So we really focus on fan experiences, but we also have an advocacy group. So we have our past players, supporter groups, cheer squads, and all of that sort of thing as well. So we have quite a wide scope, but we love it. Keeps us energized.
Fantastic. And Raquel, I'll pass it on to you.
Yeah, I've been working in sports industry for 5 years. This is actually my first year in the marketing manager role. Previously, I was on our community relations team, which is kind of a subsector of our marketing department here at True North. Similarly, kind of a few different roles all in one with the marketing manager position. So a lot of what I focus on is our ticketing and kind of just that front forward branding and messaging to our fans, letting them know, when, where, who we're playing. That's kind of the main target. And then to add to that, we also do a lot of our promotional games, our giveaway items, similar to Karina, the giveaways and in-game stuff as well, is kind of all encompassing. And, we have a smaller team here with the Moose, so you get to do a little bit of everything and get your hand in a little bit of different areas, which I love to do. I like kind of that encompassing experience that I'm really getting out of this.
Yeah, fantastic. I guess just for people watching at home, a bit of an understanding of why both of you and your organizations wanted to start working with Tradable Bits within that kind of digital advertising space. Again, Karina, I'll start with you.
We really recognized that there was a lot of expertise to be had in this area and that it wasn't something that we could host as a resource internally. So we were really on the lookout for someone that could feel like an extension to the team, but really make sure that we were staying up to date with trends or, what was happening, even down to the details of, like the iOS systems and things. That's just not something that we can stay abreast of. So having someone that could really do all the hard work for us, essentially, but keep us relevant, keep us best practice was really what the goal was. So Tradable were the best fit, and it's been a dream ever since.
And Raquel, from your side of things?
Very similar. Pretty much hit all the points there. Definitely, I think it's kind of been over the past few years, we've kind of grown more and more to use Tradable Bits, whether it's the activations we're using, and then eventually kind of turned into what's now our paid social is done with Colton, and kind of similar to what Karina said, like, it's just, you guys have the expertise, you have the knowledge that, we wish we maybe had, but there's only so many hours in a day. And it's really helpful to have someone that kind of understands not only the market, but also our brand. I think you guys do a great job both on the Moose and the Jet side of understanding kind of how we want to look and our tones and messaging, and kind of bringing that forward to those paid digital ads.
Fantastic. Well done, Colton. That's a little tap on the back for you, mate.
I'll take it.
Yeah, perfect. So we'll get stuck into part one. I'll throw this question to the floor, and I'll probably start with you, Raquel. I guess in your eyes, what are some of the current digital advertising trends you've seen within your industry, and particularly on the North American side? It is a little bit different to the Asia Pacific side that Karina and myself are currently in.
Yeah, some of what we're kind of seeing is really just that making our ads and our brand just accessible to everyone, and making sure that we're finding ways to deliver our messaging directly to how our fans and our consumers are actually taking in that information. Like I said, our paid social is a huge part of that. There's very few people now that aren't scrolling on their phones most of the day. So kind of bringing our messaging to them and not kind of making them seek it out has been a huge help. We also, on our side, we're really trying to kind of communicate that atmosphere and those experiences versus, obviously everyone wants to come down for just the hockey game and the hockey itself, but we're really kind of selling more of that entertainment experience. And by doing that, we're kind of finding different ways that we can have fun with the messaging and the form of that messaging, like how we're able to deliver it. And I think that's kind of been a huge part of what we've been trying to do and trying to accomplish with you guys over there.
Yeah, I think you're so right in the sense that everyone is on their phones, and for better or worse. But I mean, they are definitely that is like one of the main mediums that people are consuming. A lot of this kind of engagement from the different teams. Karina, I'll kind of pass it over to you, and I guess APAC is a little bit different, but certainly similar in the social trends.
Yeah, for sure. I think we really noticed that the value of those connection points really skyrocketed over that 2-year break where we really couldn't, and Raquel, really take your point around that atmosphere. We're really driving that, but we lost momentum for that 2-year break. So we really found that everyone was deferring to these digital mediums to stay connected, whether it was with, brands and businesses or with each other. So I feel like that usage has just become even more valuable in sort of the life of people now. So yeah, we're really seeing that it's much more meaningful. It's not just about being convenient anymore. It's actually about making sure it connects with what's important in someone's life and what space you're taking up in their life as well. So making sure that is always front of mind, and it's not always just about that conversion, although that's so important. That from a fan perspective, sometimes there needs to be a bit more behind it than just, wow, how amazing that they knew me well enough to put that there.
Yeah, so true. Definitely content has to be really, really engaging. I think people, particularly fans within the sports industry, are very, very quick to call out if something is not hitting the mark, and particularly if it is in the advertising space. Carlton, was there anything you wanted to weigh in within trends that you're kind of seeing? You're obviously working very heavily in this space.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like the industry is definitely moving towards just kind of reaching fans in a much more deliberate and targeted way, especially when it comes to things like sports fans, where there's a lot of passion surrounding it. It's kind of all about knowing the fans and the audience and kind of what they're looking to see. We've definitely been moving in the direction of running more things like not only letting them know when and where the game is, but also showing a highlight here and there and making the ad kind of actually interesting and entertaining for the fan to really drum up those feelings of passion and excitement for the game.
I'll lead on with my next question. And for both Karina and Raquel, there's obviously so much within that marketing space. So you've obviously got above the line and below the line. And I'm really just want to kind of get a gauge of where paid social sits within that marketing stack. And I guess how kind of crucial it is, whether it's on the engagement side of things or whether it's on the conversion side of things. And just mainly just kind of how it fits in for just so that, other clubs or other people within the industry can get an understanding of where it fits.
Look, for us, it's actually the most one-to-one personalized we can get at this point. So it's the most important part of our stack in that way, because thinking about those old marketing metrics of like opportunity to see, and when we're talking about reach, like they're wonderful things when you're thinking about awareness and driving up that brand familiarity. But for us, it's really about that intimacy and coming back to that feeling of people really miss that a lot. So they've almost got a lot more space for it now. So they're after more, and they want that gap to be filled more than it ever has been before. So for us, it's imperative that we have that intimacy as we're building our marketing automation customer journey as well. Like it's just the most valuable part of our marketing mix.
Yeah, fantastic. And Raquel, I'll kind of pass that over to you.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. You know, it's kind of at the top of us for us there with what we're putting out. I think more traditional medias are still important and still valuable in terms of, you know, kind of acting as those additional touch points, but you're not able to get that kind of those numbers, those really tangible kind of facts that you hope to see. And I think that just kind of helps us. You know, there's been a few occasions where, you know, we have a budget and we see those ROIs and they're proving and they're exceeding what we had hoped, and then we can add more to. And that's just kind of the benefit of having those live numbers. And definitely what Karina said, like making that tailored messaging to people to be able to engage kind of similarly to what we mentioned before, like reach them where they already are, and making that kind of messaging to them as clear hitting so that it grabs their attention and hopefully translates.
Really spot on the money there. I mean, the messaging really has to be tailored. And again, it kind of goes back to that piece with, you know, yes, it is a really important part of the marketing stack, but it can't be something that, you know, you just kind of slap some creative together and then put it out. You really got to put some time into it. What both of you foresee is some of your biggest challenges within this space within 2023? Karina, I know we're about to kick off the season in, is it 37 days? Am I correct? Or 36, I think?
That's why I'm laughing. So I'm like, don't remind me. There's such a long list. We're talking about a marketing stack. There's one of those at my desk. I can tell you that much. Like, no, it's look, the challenge is going to be getting the volume of content that we wish we could have to be able to deliver as much of that personalized or close or like relevant content as possible. That's really going to be our struggle. So is the resourcing side of making sure that we can pull that all together, but also be really reactive with it. So when we're, you know, Raquel, you mentioned the numbers and the metrics, that's so important. So if we're getting the feedback that, hey, that content just isn't it, like it's not working, we want to be able to be reactive to that. So our challenge will be about how we workflow manage and how we make sure that that's a priority for the broader team as much as the marketing team. So work in progress, but I think we've made strides in getting tighter briefs, tighter turnarounds, and maybe not, you know, doing too many polished things and just, you know, being okay with that native or very casual style of content too.
Yeah, definitely. I think Collingwood is certainly at the top end of that side when it comes to the content pieces, when it comes to the engagement pieces, particularly within that AFL and probably Australia-wide, actually, in terms of that sports industry. I think you can certainly give yourself and the team a pat on the back, Karina, for that.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Raquel, is it a little bit different in the North American side for some of the challenges, or is it pretty similar across the board within kind of that sports industry space?
I think there's a little bit of similarities. I mean, obviously we're kind of right in the middle of our season right now, so we're kind of trying to learn on the fly as, you know, what we're putting out. Has it been working? Do we want to keep kind of on that same streamline for the second half of the season? But it really similarly, it's kind of the time and resources that we have. We're a American Hockey League team. We don't have quite as many staff as, you know, maybe our NHL affiliates here, but, you know, working with what we have and trying to make the best of it, we've been kind of finding ways that we can almost reuse some of our content, whether it's from past years and we know it did well, or, you know, using an intro video and clipping it for a digital paid ad, finding little ways that we can kind of still put out the content that we want without having to kind of overexude ourselves and put ourselves in a little bit of a hole. And then just really kind of finding your break in the market. Like we said, like everyone's kind of trying to put their messages out there, and you're always trying to kind of be the one that they actually see and they remember. And we're ingesting so much in a day when we're on our phones. So in terms of the paid social, like you really got to make sure you're standing out and finding those tailor kind of pieces that we've mentioned before are just so key in that process, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point you brought up as well around you're trying to find efficiencies within your team. And as you said, a little bit of a smaller team. And I think something that we've definitely spoke to partners about is around boosting content. So you obviously got your social teams, videography teams that are already creating this amazing content for you that you're putting on your organic channels, and really how easy it can be to just amplify that by putting some paid spend behind it and creating it, or I guess kind of putting it into the advertising space. Which then really just means that you're not having to kind of create an ad in itself. You're really just boosting that organic content. Colton, from your side, mate, some of the biggest challenges that you've probably seen within the digital advertising space?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple things that come to mind just working with teams. Generally, there's always a lack of time and resources. So we're always here to kind of be that extension of their team and try to help any way we can. There's also some challenges around iOS 14 and just kind of the impact of how tracking will work in the new environment and how to kind of reach people despite the limitations brought with it. And then there's also, I often see just kind of some issues in terms of the ads that are already running when new teams come to us. A lot of times they're just not taking full advantage of all the audiences that they should be taking advantage of. They're not retargeting their primary data. They're just missing a lot of opportunity in terms of dialing in their audiences and really sharpening up their campaigns.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I might keep going with you, Colton, while you're on a roll here, mate, and kind of dive into that a little bit deeper, which probably leads us into part two of, I guess, how we can address some of these key challenges, particularly with some of the partners that come to us. And for me, what kind of comes to mind is that audience creation side of things, and maybe some of the opportunities that they're missing, as you said. And then I think what both Karina and Raquel have touched on is that attribution and performance side, and I guess being able to actually see metrics that are beyond just reach and link clicks and actually dive into the conversion side of things. I might start with the former, mate, in terms of the audience creation side, and maybe dealing with some of those challenges.
Well, for starters, like kind of a common thing that we see with a lot of teams are manual CSV uploads, where, for example, somebody could be selling tickets to a certain game and they're trying to exclude them. So they're manually kind of uploading the buyers to try to exclude them as they go. And then even in terms of tracking the offline conversions for the attribution side of things, sometimes we see a lot of, again, manual list uploads there. So one of the big solutions with Tradable Bits is that we have automated processes for that, so that we integrate with the ticketing system directly. So you don't actually have to waste all your time just uploading and managing CSVs all the time. You can spend more time kind of looking at the data and the reports coming in and focus more on what matters, which is kind of the content that you're putting out there and what kind of messaging is actually working and sticking with the core fans.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point in terms of that audience creation and being able to address the dynamic audience piece. And, again, with teams like kind of Raquel touched on, smaller teams, in terms of finding efficiencies, one would be for sure the dynamic audience piece and not having to upload a CSV list weekly. In terms of, I think this got brought up before, maybe by Karina, but in terms of that iOS 14 piece, which is probably the one that, I don't know, is the elephant in the room, I guess, and it probably has been for a couple of years now. Colton, was there anything that you wanted to kind of address on that side and really kind of look at some of the ways that we've tried to mitigate that as much as possible on our side?
Yeah, definitely. So a couple of things come to mind. For starters, the biggest one is going to be, again, tracking those offline conversions. Before iOS 14, it was roughly 2/3 of conversions were all online conversions. So if somebody checked out and purchased, the Pixel was able to just track that action directly and attribute it. But now with iOS 14, when people are presented with the option to opt out of that kind of tracking, they generally do so. And so now the reliance on offline conversions has grown massively, so much so that now offline conversions generally make up about 2/3 of the actual conversions. So if you don't have a good way to manage that and handle that, you're going to be kind of running pretty blind. But with our automated system, we can automatically send those sales data over to Facebook through the ticketing integration, and then we can match for offline conversions. So there's no hassle in terms of managing CSVs. And we can see just a lot more attribution for the campaigns. Another tweak, which is a little bit more specific to digital advertising, is just kind of shifting some of our objectives. We used to run a lot of things like landing page view objectives and things that were tracked by the pixel, but now we shifted quite a bit more towards things like link clicks, which are always tracked regardless of tracking settings on iOS 14. They'll always know if somebody clicks the link. And then a huge one is switching more over to things like videos, where we can track through plays, because Facebook's always going to know how much of a video on their platform somebody watches, regardless of what phone operating system they have. And those are kind of some of the core ways we've been combating the effects of iOS 14.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think for me, really, what I've seen on my side, particularly within the AFL landscape, is just clubs being able to make much more informed decisions based off things like conversions, things like sales revenue and ROI that they previously weren't able to. That's purely just what the ticketing integration allows. And I guess from my end, coming from Clubland and moving across, I think that was probably one of the biggest eye-openers for me, was that there are clubs that are able to see that data and are just quite a long way ahead, really, because of that. Karina, I'm sure that probably speaks to you quite a lot, and just being able to make the best use of your marketing dollars and kind of put that to good use. In terms of Colton, was there anything else you wanted to touch on in terms of anything, any challenges within that digital space, and anything else that you've kind of seen to address anything?
Not really. I think we're okay on this side of things.
Fine, mate. Perfect. Well, I mean, in terms of Karina or Raquel, were there any other challenges, I think, from the partner side? I guess, for, both of you being long-standing partners with us now, was there anything within that digital space that you've seen, or maybe something that kind of has been addressed in the last kind of 12 months? Absolutely fine if there isn't, of course.
I'd say you guys kind of nailed the ones that were the major things that kind of have been sticking out to us. Again, I'm somewhat still new to this role, but those have kind of been the things that we've seen and we've been trying to address, with Colton and with the Tradable Bits platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree. We're sort of deferring all the problem solving to you guys. So thanks for that. But also, I think it's going to be this evolving thing, right? Like, we're always going to have to learn, and like if they're not giving us the information so we can learn about them, and we can't get it from their behaviors, what is that gap? So that's, for us, it's the attribution part of it is evolutionary, and we understand that it's not there's not an end point in the journey. It's going to be ever evolving, but that's why we have you. Thank
you very much, Karina, again.
Handling all of the hard work.
We'll move into part 3, and look, this is really about the partner side now. Really want to touch on some of the successes and key learnings from both yourself, Karina, and Raquel. And I might start with you, Karina, and definitely in the last 12 months, in terms of working with you and your team and being able to reach that lofty milestone of 100,000 members, which was a really massive achievement, obviously for you, but also for us as well. I think it really was something that we really celebrated as well, helping a partner reach such an amazing milestone. I probably want to go all the way back to maybe when that milestone was put in front of you, and would like to get your thoughts, if you could think back to kind of maybe how that number came about, and maybe some first thoughts of how you plan to achieve it.
Yeah, certainly. So 100,000 members was something that we had anticipated to achieve this year. So it was a 2023. We sort of mapped it out, and we thought that was appropriate growth, factoring in churn and all of those sorts of things, and the activity we were working with you on as well in terms of that conversion and getting more eyeballs across our content. So we always knew we were going to get there. It was just that we had factored it in for this year. So we had a little bit of a change in leadership at the club, and it was really put to us as well, why wait? Why can't we do it this year? Why not? And that really incentivized and motivated us to say, well, actually, yeah, like, are we being a little bit safe here? Is this something that actually, if we double down and really focus on, we could actually get it this year? So it came from this aspiration of, I think it's achievable sooner than that. And really that belief kind of, it spurred in us to think about creative ways of how we could actually go about doing that. Now, when we say 100,000, it's not like we were sitting at 90. We were sitting at 78. So it wasn't like we'd ever, we were just on the cusp, and it was just a few more conversions this year, and, maybe on a lower tier package or something. It was very much, there was a gap to fill. And the highest number we'd ever recorded, which was in 2019, was 85, just over 85,000 or 86,000. So there was a sizable gap for us to actually acknowledge that we'd had that lapse, we'd had that, loss of momentum, both in performance a little bit, and, there was a lot of change that had happened at the club. So the sentiment for fans had changed and shifted a lot. And we'd seen that in the membership conversions as well, going from that 85, 86,000 to 78 in 2021. So there was a gap to be filled, but we were excited, and we had you guys backing us in. So we knew that there was not, it wasn't something that wasn't insurmountable, and it was a really good aspirational goal. Whether we even land, it's that whole saying of aim for the moon, land amongst the stars. We were sort of going to be happy regardless of how close, but it was a great focal point for last year.
It certainly was. It was certainly something when I came on board, I was like, wow, okay, we're gonna really give this a crack. But
right.
Very, very glad we got there in the end. I think again, we may have touched on some of these already, but some of those key challenges that you face probably within that digital space, but then also maybe in the wider team as well, with trying to hit such a big goal, and as you said, with a bit of a gap there as well. Probably doesn't just come down to digital space.
Absolutely. And, the whole intention of mapping out that growth agenda over the 2-year period, really to get that closer to that 100,000, was because we were focusing on the data capture side of it and getting, some of these anonymous users out there known to us. So how do we get that zero or first party data, and how do we start to build these profiles of fans that aren't members? So we were really focusing on that top of the funnel growth area, really about what can we be doing in that space? What does that look like? How are we leveraging paid and also the fan engagement side of the platform of Tradable to get to that? So when we were thinking about, well, the challenge is that we now have to lower our focus to go, well, how about the people that we know are already familiar with us, but don't have those, well, let's call them commercialized transactions or relationships with us, because they might just watch us on TV, but not necessarily have any other interaction with us, or they might follow one of our social pages, but actually do nothing else beyond that. So we really had to change our eye line about, well, it was also going to be about capturing that fan and getting a bit more of a profile or understanding those anonymous users out there. But it was also about bringing the ones that we also knew were already familiar with us further down that funnel and closer to that conversion point. So the challenge was, which was the priority and which was going to bear the most fruits most quickly. So we didn't know the answer to that. So we just experimented, and we really had a license to fail, which was really wonderful to have that sort of support from the business to say, innovation is the key here. And if you want to try different things, you've got our backing to do it. So the challenge was really around, which one, chicken or egg? Is it, the data capture and then bringing that conversion point more immediately? Or was it more so around, getting those people that might have lapsed, or maybe, just didn't have that closer financial relationship with us, closer to being a member?
Yeah, I think I remember having those kind of conversations, and I think probably what we were able to kind of do in the end was find a really good middle ground between both, and almost kind of pulling them into kind of one big audience. So I guess starting with those really strong seed audiences of people that you know are going to convert or have converted in the past, and then branching out from there. So looking at some lookalikes off the back of that really strong first-party data, whether that's on the contesting side or whether that's on the actual Arctics membership side, with people who have actually renewed year on year, or lapsed and unrenewed members who you actually know who they are, and then branching out from there, rather than, I guess, what's maybe happened in the past, or at least in my experience in Clubland, is what's happened in the past is starting really broad with just kind of, let's try and capture anyone and bring them in, which maybe hasn't worked as well. But yeah, I think you definitely hit the nail on the head there with some of those key challenges.
I think, Matt, as well, you would recall, like, we tried 2 of those exact types of promotions of, like, it was a very broad messaging of I think it was a trial membership, and it was very transactional and very broad, and that was probably one of the lower performing ads we'd done in the whole season, whereas the ones that we actually used some creative content and were a bit more fun with, that had the better results. So it was really about understanding those audiences and what was really going to connect them in and sort of draw them down into deciding that there was value in becoming a member.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think again, that creative piece is a really key point that I think everyone should understand, in that, as I said before, I think fans, really no matter what, but particularly sports fans, they're very quick to understand what is an ad and what's just, really engaging organic content. And so if there's a way to leverage that organic content, which is really engaging, which is, maybe athlete focused or fan focused within, say, an arena or stadium, and leverage that into that advertising space, well, then that's going to work far, far better than any kind of piece of maybe static creative that is purely just a sales message. So, and particularly within that engagement space, and particularly within the, I guess, that early part of the season, or even before round 1, when you really, when you are trying to engage people and bring them back in stadium, or more get them to connect back with the club after that hiatus, particularly that kind of COVID hiatus as well, which is, I guess, very, quite a big outlier, but still, I think that was kind of one of the key pieces of really trying to leverage that organic content. And then I think probably the next part was really just we've worked with Collingwood for quite a few years now, and we've seen kind of the substantial growth within that partnership. And I guess just wanted to understand from our side, what was the key in partnering with Tradable for that kind of ads project specifically, Karina, and whether you had anything you could touch on there.
Yeah, look, it started with the fan engagement side of things, and we were very interested in being able to be creative and sort of bring a little bit of entertainment and connection outside of the game, and having to be in the stadium to be able to feel that way. So it started with the fan engagement side of it, and we really saw that as a great way to get that data capture and that growth agenda, really kickstarting that by having these new ways of interacting and providing value. And then I think it was an evolution to just say, well, how are we going to get to these new people? How are we going to communicate to these people? And we can't just keep relying on our newsletter database or our, the people that we know already. What about the people that we don't have those existing relationships with? So it was an evolution of understanding the value that we could be providing as an innovative club, and as a club really focused on driving a really future-focused agenda. So it was, and they're the very transactional elements of why we were working with you. Of course, that makes a lot of sense, but there was also the interaction piece as well, and that team mind. And that's really important to us, is that we have an extension of the team that understands our strategy, that believes in our strategy as well, but understands what we're trying to achieve and why we're trying to achieve it too. So there's the social, or the interpersonal side of it as well, is having someone that can sort of be like, hey, I've got a great idea too, does this align? And rather than just taking a brief or taking an idea and delivering it, it was really about having a two-way relationship. So yeah, we love the little family we think we've created. And we love sort of being a part of these conversations too, to sort of just to say like how much we feel like you've contributed towards what we've been growing, and how much you've been a big part of our team. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Karina. Again, you're far too kind, but it has been great being part of your team as well, and being on that journey with you. So thank you, and great to hear about your success as well, reaching that milestone. And we're going to do it all over again in a couple of weeks' time.
200 next. Just joking.
Raquel, on your side, I might hand it over to you. And Colton, I know you've been working quite closely with Raquel on this as well. Did you want to highlight the case study? I think it was the one of the games you were able to, there it is there, $1,000 worth of spend, over 100K reach, 300K impressions, and then a 5 times ROI. Colton, I might hand that one over to you and Raquel to chat through.
Yeah, definitely. This really just kind of goes back to what you were saying, Matt, about kind of flipping the traditional sales funnel upside down and starting with that primary data at the bottom, the known core fans, and then things like people who have watched for through plays and things like that, website clickers, page engagers, and then kind of branching out into the prospecting side of things, where we start to move into things like lookalikes, people who haven't engaged in so long, and then even just kind of demographic targeting as well at the very high end. And with this ad, things went super well. It's a very unique game with a very unique offer. It's a hockey game, but it's a soccer game, so it definitely stood out to a lot of fans. And flipping that sales funnel kind of on its head again was a great way to kind of reach the core fans and let them know, but also reach a lot of new audiences and new people who maybe have never been out before, just to kind of let them know that there's a great theme night going on with the Manitoba Moose. And at the end, we had a good result as well.
Yeah,
I was just going to add.
Please go on.
This one definitely has kind of the shock factor in terms of the ad itself. Like we kind of wanted to find, with this promo game, we're really looking to kind of extend to those different audiences who, maybe are not traditionally hockey fans. Maybe we have a soccer team in Winnipeg who we worked with as well, to kind of try and join forces and capture their audiences. And we plan to do something similar with them in the summer, but also just kind of really reaching those international fans as well, which was a big one for us. Everyone has those soccer teams that they cheer for and are very dedicated. And we actually ended up seeing that at the game itself. We saw, those different uniforms and scarves that came out, and then just kind of really trying to go for that different feel from something that we've done in the past. And I think we succeeded at that. And that was such a fun game. We had a lot of different elements at the game itself that kind of lended a hand to that, I think, at the end. But it was super exciting to see those returns and just kind of see how Colton and the team kind of worked to maintain this and keep an eye on it, and kind of make sure that as it's continuing to spend, they're reaching people properly, I guess, and kind of keeping an eye on it and not just letting it, out there and to deal with itself, but kind of maintaining it throughout as well, which I think added to the success.
Yeah, fantastic. And I guess from my end, Raquel, like, are there any key learnings from this? I know you said you were new to this role, but any key learnings that I guess you'd take into next season, or kind of, this year and kind of beyond?
I would say one of them was probably just, how we kind of were able to hit those audiences that we didn't necessarily have. I don't want to say we doubted that we would, but kind of being able to put something out there that's a little bit of a risk in terms of, will people react well to this? Will people engage with it? And then to see it kind of literally pay off was just kind of a confidence thing for our team, and allows us to look at a game like this, if we wanted to do a soccer game again, or do kind of other fun promo nights that are a little bit more out there. You know, we have these kind of impressions and the reach to back it up and kind of give us the confidence to build up to those and hopefully create some similar games and similar returns as well.
Fantastic. No, that's really good to hear. And Colton, was there anything else you want to touch on?
I really like the way they took it. It's not just a hockey game with the Moose. It's a lot more about the in-game experience and kind of everything that goes with the game. And this game definitely embodies that to the fullest. It's definitely super unique. I've never seen another hockey team run a soccer game before, and I'm glad that it went well.
That's good. It's definitely one for people to have a look at. And I guess to kind of move towards wrapping things up a little bit here. So, Colton, just on your end, were there any other additional learnings you wanted to touch on at all?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say at the beginning of the season, like beforehand, it's a great time to kind of collect data and build anticipation for the season. That's when people are kind of optimistic. They're missing their sport, and it's just kind of right around the corner and ready to come back again. It's also a great time to kind of plan kind of a holistic view of the season in terms of promotions around some of the theme games and kind of where you want to put more of your ad budget, whether that's going to be prospecting to win new fans or which games are the big sellers that maybe don't need as much promotion because they're great at selling themselves. It's also great to separate your audiences so that you're not competing with yourself. Sometimes you can leverage tradable bits to do things like exclude people who've already bought to certain games. Or if you're working with me, we can run more advanced strategies like full funnels that kind of embody the whole thing and kind of reach people in a very particular way that you're never actually bidding against yourself. And then there's like other things, like I have a quick tip that I really like to see implemented across different teams. It still kind of drives me crazy here in Vancouver when I see a team kind of miss out on this. But say you have a game and it's a Friday night game, don't have the ad say February 10th throughout the whole lifetime. When it's 1 week out, make sure you tell them that the game is this Friday. It's just such an easy change that teams can make to their ads. But when a fan sees an ad that says that the game is this Friday, it's so much easier for them to connect with that in their head and see themselves at the game than to try to picture whatever they would do on February 10th or what even is that. They don't really know. But this Friday always hits home to people and they can always kind of picture what they're going to do. So that's just a great way to kind of elevate your ads across the whole season with little to no effort at all.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think I have to reiterate that pre-season period for me. It's something that I definitely have spoken at length, not only to Collingwood, but also to some of our other sports partners. And for me, that's probably the crucial part for sports teams. That's when optimism is at its highest. Every fan thinks that their team can win and win the championship or the premiership. And I think that's when teams need to capitalize as much as they possibly can when that sentiment is at its highest. Because for me, once round one hits, if unfortunately, say you start the year off a little bit slow and either lose that first game or lose the first couple, then it's really, really, really hard to come back from that and try to build that momentum again. So that's probably my little thing that I like to kind of emphasize the most. Lastly, look, in terms of key takeaways, Colton, was there anything you wanted to touch on in your end from being kind of the specialist in the room here?
Yeah, definitely. Another big crucial side of things is just kind of revolves around the creative best practices. It's becoming more and more important to start doing things like branch out into videos and run things like highlights. Hitting that reel placement is becoming more and more important for delivering ads to Instagram as well. And when you pair that video with a static image, especially on Meta, it's been just very, very helpful because it lets Meta kind of deliver that video and people are interested in watching. And we kind of see that a lot of the ROI kind of falls into the static image side of things too, because maybe it can reach them at a better time and it's a better way to actually drive that call to action to follow through and purchase. but the video is also great at drumming up those great emotions again of excitement and passion around the sport and getting people interested, getting them into the sales funnel, and then hopefully delivering that static image at the end that actually drives the sale. So making sure that the creative, pairing the video with a static image has been very good. And then also just generating creative that's kind of hits on the emotional level of the fan, that's exciting for the fan, that helps them kind of celebrate their passion for the sport as well and actually feel something when they watch it, will definitely help and go a long way in terms of digital advertising.
Thank you, mate. To wrap up, I think probably the three key themes from today is, really looking at that attribution side of things and what clubs can do within that space, that audience creation side, and then as we've heard from both Raquel and Karina, trying to find some efficiencies within that, whether that's the automation side and some time-saving opportunities as well. I'd like to thank both of our amazing panelists, Raquel and Karina, for their time. Really, really appreciate you giving us your time out of your day. It's been lovely to chat and to have you on, and wish you both best for your respective seasons. So thank you very much.
Thank you for including us.
Yeah, thank you.
And Colton, as always, thank you very much, mate, for your expertise and specialist knowledge within this space. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem.